Trails Committee Chair, calling the meeting to order at 7:33. I'm going to read our preamble. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Trails Committee will be conducted via remote participation in the greatest extent possible. Specific information about the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at https://www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of meetings of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So I'll do a roll call for who's here. When I call your name, just say present. Sati?
Present.
And Isabel? Murphy?
Present.
And this is Catherine McKee here. And it does not look like Isabel, Louisa has joined us yet, so we'll carry on. So our first order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the July meeting, but we did not, I did not finalize those, so we'll do that next meeting. Okay. Sati did get those to me in the last few days, but I haven't had time. So our next item on the agenda is the Choate Fund grant project update. So as you know, I sent pictures of the Southborough Trail signs. 2 of the 4 have been installed. I think they look really good. And I've received favorable replies from most of you. I can do a quick screen share and show let's see. Do a couple of look at my email. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
You see the pictures? Okay, so I'll start with these. So this is on Route 85. Actually, I have to move that over. And so you can see they look really good. I'm glad we went with the shorter side, but now looking at it really closely, you can see there's this board here. I would love that sign to be a little bit longer just to kind of match up with that edging. But, you know, I think it looks really good and we can learn from that next time.
Oh, Kat, I think it looks great.
I know, right? The nits. I'm such a nitpicker. Also, notice on this sign, I added a new, after our last meeting, I added a new sign for dog waste per DCR's request. And they had this cute educational piece that just shares what happens with dog waste in water and why it's important to manage it. So it was my first time taking down the molding and the polycarbonate glass. I did bring my handy husband to help, but it wasn't too bad. We used, electronic driver or a screwdriver, and it came right out. So there was on Route 85. It's not quite square, so it's a little hard to pop in, but it worked. So that was good. And then
might we be obsessing just a tiny bit?
Obsessing meaning well, no, it's just something to note. Like I would put it in our plans that if for our future committee members to just know that this one causes a little bit of tricky, you have to kind of push it here, push it there, so it's not as straightforward. So yeah, I thought these came out really nice, and if you've driven by and seen them, it's really very visible from the road. I was ours by reducing the height of the sign, not making it 10 inches, we can really see it underneath the wood. That's Philip, by the way, installing, and this is Route 30. So yeah, so really high quality very impressed. And so he is working on finalizing the next two signs. I'm going to stop screen sharing until you might get my kitty cats. Okay, great. So yeah, so thank you for everybody's help and recommendations on the stain color, and everything worked out really well. So as part of that project, we're doing the fishing line receptacles. So I've been working with Tom, and Tom, it's really tricky to find 6-inch, 10-foot PVC pipe. So it's stores like Home Depot and places like that do not carry 6-inch typically. There was some in Quincy, which I did have in my cart yesterday. I was going to go buy, but luckily I stopped and asked DPW if they had any scraps laying around. And I said we would do 6-inch or 4-inch, because doing a little bit more research, although 6 inches is bigger, 4-inch is adequate. You can still deposit into a 4-inch. So, and it's less expensive for all the components. And so we can get more for our buck. So we, DPW did. They in fact had some scraps. So we're going to pick those up today. Very excited and grateful to DPW for all the help that they and the support that they give out the committee. So that was really great to hear. So I'm going to pick those up today. I've purchased all of the other items to put the things together. Tom is out of town for a couple weeks. So I would ask if anyone's interested this weekend in working with me safely, masks on, to help put those together.
Sure.
That would be great. I mean,
yeah, Sunday if we can do that, I can do.
Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine it taking very long. And so it's really the pieces, the 2-foot pieces that we're going to be working with will be pre-cut, and all we'll be doing is literally gluing the adhesive and putting on the pieces that need to go together, the little 90-degree hood, elbow, and then the cap, and then the labels. And then the installation is going to be a little tricky. I purchased clamps, like pipe clamps, and they're 4 inches to go around the 4-inch pipe. I don't know if it will be perfect for the installation on the posts where we're putting them. So that's one question which we may get to and realize that we need some other tools. So they can be returned and we can work that out. I don't think zip ties alone will be strong enough to install it, but I could be wrong. So that's that. So that's coming together nicely. So hopefully if I can coordinate with you guys for Sunday, we'll find a place where we can go and set that up. That'd be great. I did have one other thing with that. It will come to me when I think about it. So I think those two things. As a result of saving some money, we may have a little extra money, and the signs were a little bit less expensive because they weren't quite 47 inches. They went down to 33 inches, I think. And so as a result, we may be able to use, I need to talk to the Choate Fund trustees to make sure I can repurpose some of the money. It's also for trails enhancements. So I'm hoping that the answer is just a overwhelming yes. But we need some signage for the BCT connector, which I'll be talking about shortly. As the trail is getting built out, recognizing there's a few spots where we really need to say not allowed here. Please don't go, towards the dam structures. It's really important. So I have a call into MWRA to talk to them about how they want to handle some of that signage so that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that the structures are protected. Because number one is, priority is obviously maintaining the Fayetteville Dam and making sure that's safe. And as we bring people near that, we want to make sure it's really clear that there's only some sections they're allowed on. So that would be great if we could repurpose some of that. If we can't, we'll just figure out what we need to do next. I don't think the signs will be very expensive. It might be we can work out another plan. Any questions on that project? Great. Okay, so we talked, the installation of the last kiosk at Fayetteville Park. So I met with Tim Davis, Director of Recreation, on Monday, and we staked out the location because they have now they've placed boundary markers for the basketball court. And they're also putting in a paved track around the little green space there so that it will be an ADA path, which is kind of exciting. Another opportunity for the town to expand that. So we placed flags where we want the kiosk to go, but I did notice that I drove by later that day and they may have been gone. They may have been removed. So I'm not surprised if there's a lot of kids around. The flags seem like they might be a fun toy, although perhaps dangerous because they're pointy, but whatever. So we need to reflag that. And the question I asked DPW is, can the kiosk be installed before the path, before the basketball court? Or does all of that have to happen and then the kiosk? Because it's near where they're going to be bringing equipment. So we want to see what needs to happen. The driver is the install of the signs. If the sign guy is coming back to do the installation, it'd be great if he could install both of those. Otherwise, he'll leave them with us and it will be up to us to get it straight, which is the scary thing. So we'll see how that goes. I've not heard back yet on the timing of that kiosk, but hopefully it will definitely go in this fall, but when it happens, it just depends on their schedule. So, but that's exciting to have that final one done. And I was out looking yesterday at Ward Road, recognizing that was one of our potential locations, but I think we prioritized higher visible locations and throughout town. But that would be a great place. There's a perfect spot at the end of the cul-de-sac off of Ward Road for another kiosk. So we'll look for an opportunity. There is an Eagle Scout project happening for stewardship. And it might be, if you're going to build one, you want to build two, so we might be able to piggyback on a project that a Boy Scout could help us do. That would be great if we could get another one up. So that's that. Any questions on kiosks? Okay.
Sounds good.
I talked about the dog waste flyer and then trail maintenance plans. So I have some new information. I did do a quick survey of most of the trails. I went out to Isabel, to the one that did not get mowed, that small section off of Lattisquama. I noticed that somebody's been doing something. Thank you so much. That looks really good.
It's not pretty, but we were able to at least get it opened up so that you can get through and not get attacked by the high grass and by the poison ivy.
Thank you very much. Did you do that with a weed eater, a string?
I used two things. I tried the weed eater, but because there's the tall grass, it gets all wrapped around it. And then I got those. Remember I mentioned the electric hedge trimmers?
Yes.
And those were good enough at least to be able to open the path up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Would like to ask, it is J&J that's supposed to know that, right? Yeah, because there's no barrier there that would have caused a problem. I'm not sure what happened.
They might have just missed that little section. It's their first mow of the year. Maybe it was a new person, but I did reach out to DPW. I sent him a map and I said, hey, this section's normally mowed under the regular plan. Can you just share with J&J? And they can't access it from one side. Can you just make sure they get it next time? Okay. DPW did say that they're coming on Thursday of this week. To do the mowing again. So it's the second time they'll be out. So they'll be able to get it at that point too. So, and very good news that at DPW talked to J&J and they are adding the section of trail off of Parkerville past the athletic fields where the trail splits when you're heading towards the footbridge from Parkerville. So that little section of trail that was not as maintained as it could be, will now be under J&J's mowing schedule. So that was really great news. And we are again thankful for DPW for allowing that section to be added. And it really helps the committee maintain the trails better because we can't, that section is really difficult. I did pick up what's called a weed whip I attended that workshop on Saturday, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And they go over basic tools for trails. And it was a new tool that is, it's double-edged blade, shaped like a triangle with a handle, and you literally just whip it. And it would be perfect for that location, Isabel, where a string trimmer it doesn't really work because the grass is really tall. So I took it to that section, which is why I saw that. I was like, I'm going to try it on the tall grass. And it worked really well because it's a good solution for poison ivy, because you don't really want you don't want to weed whack poison ivy, although I've done it, because it gets into the air and it can be really dangerous for those who are allergic. So the weed whip is an interesting tool. I also used it on part of the Bay Circuit Trail connector. There was a few locations where I did not want to bring in a power tool, and it worked really well for that as well. So that's great news. So about the maintenance plan, so I did do a quick survey. The trails are pretty good. I didn't see any hot spots necessarily. I know one section near the cemetery at that 90-degree angle, the best way I can describe it is off of, is it Middle Road? No, Route 85. That is getting a little overgrown, but J&J is going through there tomorrow, so that will be taken care of. And that's good news. And Ward Road, so last we spoke, MWA had gotten back to me and said that they were scheduled for an upcoming mow. I had shared that the grass wasn't knee high yet, or not quite too bad, but it was getting uncomfortable to walk down. And so they have not yet mowed that section. So Ward Road is a little getting taller. So I'm hoping that they will be doing that in the short term. We don't really have control over that schedule. We can just simply ask or share updates. So regarding the plan, it sounds like, so now we have, and I asked DPW if we could be notified when J&J was coming. The reason being so that the committee is well informed about when maintenance activities are happening on the trail, so we can update the public as needed, or if we're asked, we can share that information and we're all in the know. The plan is to put together a plan for the for a year, what activities need to happen in the spring, summer, and fall, even in the winter, so that we have a formalized plan. If anything were to happen, any of us want to move on, that the next set of committee members would have a good idea about that, but also for us in our own activities, so we know how to plan a year. I'll circulate that in the next couple meetings. We'll kind of look at that and add to it as we need to and sign off on it. Bay Circuit Trail connector reconstruction. So as I had mentioned, that went really well. The AMC BCT volunteers came out for, it was August 3rd. So they came out Monday and I joined them on Monday. They were there Tuesday. That was the day of the big storm. They were there maybe Wednesday and I joined them on Thursday. So they were there for 4 days, and they took care of the technical aspects where the trail was very steep and it needed some side hilling, they call it, or bench cut. And they did a great job. And I learned a lot working alongside them about what it takes, about the tools that we need to do trail maintenance. Also was really helpful to see that again, but to understand some of the techniques. So the next steps, as I circulated, we had a work day on Sunday. Thank you, Sati. He brought out 2 volunteers. I think your wife was one, and her friend Sam, and then my neighbor Ralph joined us. And so we were able to extend the trail. We did about half of it, really, where we just took where they left off and continued the path, making a bit of a path throughout the forest so people know where to walk. So that's half of it's done. Now the next step is to do the rest of it, and that's going to take a little bit of time. As I'd mentioned, it'd be great is if we could do this kind of in a continuous way as much as we can. If someone has an hour or two to go out, you want to do that, you're welcome to. It would be good to connect on what needs to happen so that we're all on the same page. But basically, there's not a lot of technical work that needs to be done at this point. We just need to clear the path. Sometimes there's limbs in the way, there's a lot of the little tree debris, and we need to rake out the path. And it's most important in one section, which is closer to Stony Brook, so that people are not kind of venturing off the path. And that we make it really clear. Now, where it's going to get tricky is when we get to the end. I say the end, you call it the beginning. I don't know what it is. It's near Route 30, where the little bridge is in Thomas Drive. That section, there's no really good way to get in, because technically where the, go ahead.
Do you have a map of that you could put up?
Let me think about the fastest way to do that. I think I'll try to go to the Trails Committee website.
Oh, I should have thought of that too. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just a second. Seems like we have fallen off of Google search. And when I used to be able to type in Southborough Trails, I'd get our website, and now they've changed something, so we don't
Okay.
quite
Or-
get it. So hang on. Oops. And actually, while we're here, I can show you something else. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the little, I'll just call it some infrastructure for the dam.
Yep.
You can't really see up beyond here, but if where I'm pointing is Clemens and Nichols is off of Pine Hill Road in
Yep.
Southborough, where the BCT connects. We did the guided hike number
Yep.
2 there, no, number 1 last year. And so it goes all the way up to Parmenter. So there's a little power line access road or access way through here.
Yeah,
And
that we,
walking around. Yeah. And so what AMCBT did, they took this trail from this wooded section here. All of this needed to be bench cut and, you know, a more secure path. Because if you remember that guided hike, it was very unstable. We were on the edge of falling off.
some of us felt.
Right, but it was on the edge and it wasn't really very secure. So now there's a path, a fairly flat, stable tread to walk and much more secure. So what we did was we took it from about here.
Okay.
We went all the way to here on Sunday. So once we got in here, so there was some more digging we had to do up here just to flatten it out. But then it was really just clearing the brush off of the tread and making a path all the way here. So this is done, right? The other thing AMC did was this little zigzag. It's a switchback. They bench cut this. So this was a very steep incline to get up. And now it's a switchback, so it makes it easier to climb that hill. And the rest of the work is from this point at the end of the zigzag all the way to Route 30 here. And so no more digging needs to happen. It just needs to be brushed out and the tread needs to be raked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we were going to get together for a couple of hours and bring a few people in, where would you want us to start?
Given that we've done most of the work on the other side where we were meeting at Clemens and Nichols, I would recommend Thomas Drive, which is just about here. So you'll pass the little bridge that has the Framingham, you're entering Framingham Road sign on the right, and then on the left is Thomas Drive. And that drive is really wide. So there's plenty of parking on the street that doesn't inhibit traffic.
Okay.
I do, if you are bringing a couple people, I do tend to put a little sign in my windshield just to say Trails Committee, site walk, temporary parking or something, just so, you know, you're in a neighborhood and I know we're allowed to park on the street, but it's just a courtesy. When we descended upon them, we had 6 cars at that time. So I thought it was wise to do. Anyone who works on the trails, we do have to have them sign a volunteer release form, it's a / photo release. And now there's a new COVID release form. So we'll want to coordinate any efforts on that, we want those forms signed before people can do any work. But if you, I'm going to take off Thursday and Friday. I was going to do some training for the GPS mapping that the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission is working on, that project to create the interactive map. They were going to do something this week. So one of those 2 days might be the GPS training, but the other day I was going to be on the trail. So if anyone has any time, Thursday or Friday, I don't know exactly what the schedule is going to be yet. Today's Wednesday, right? So I'm assuming Thursday is probably going to be out for the GPS training. So I'll be there tomorrow. I'm happy to meet someone if you're interested, or I'll also be out there this weekend trying to just knock that out and see what we can do.
Okay.
So let's just stay in touch and see what works.
Okay.
And then we'll need to blaze it also. And then I like I said, have a call into Sean Nevin at MWRA to talk about, okay, we're probably going to get through this in August. And we would like to open it up and say it's open, it's already permitted, any issues, and what's our next step, so that we can make sure that we're following protocol and we're all on the same page with that.
Sounds good.
So that's that. Okay, next is last meeting, we voted to request that the Board of Selectmen draft a letter of support, or requesting a letter, requesting DCR open up, do the access plan for the Peninsula Trail that we're trying to build out. So that is going to require us drafting that letter, sending it to them and asking them to put their final touches on it and their SIGs, and send it off to DCR. And the request is that, the town supports or would like DCR, we respectfully request that they proceed with their open, their access plan. It would be great because of the connection of the regional trails and whatnot, and see if we can, with the support of the board, move that forward. So I have not drafted that yet, and then we'll plan to reach out to the board, let them know that it's coming, and then try to get it done before our next meeting. It's just there's been a lot going on, so I haven't been able to draft that up yet. And then next is the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, the interactive online regional trails map. They assure me that they are still working that project. They're just a little bit delayed. Storm delayed them a little bit as well. They're hoping to do some more GPS training and then get that. They're gonna, map the Sudbury Reservoir Trail / Burrows Loop / Aqueduct and the town forest. So that will still moving forward, but no real new updates on that. I'm going to skip around a little bit, the website. So we were just there. Let me see if I switch screens. Can you see that screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we talked about, let me move this around. We talked about, so we have this link called resources and helpful links, right? And right now we're under construction. So Sati, I think you had mentioned after our last meeting, we were going to put together a draft for this page of what can we have here for resources. And Sati had a good idea. Do you want to talk about that idea, Sati? One of the ideas that you had shared?
Yeah, so one of the things is like some people have something like lying unused tools or anything that can be used. So that resources page will have that kind of access that people can, tell us that we have this cutter or lopper or something lying unused, so where we can get it, or anybody can get it. So that kind of thing, that kind of information, if we can have, that will help us, or anybody who needs it in any trails.
Thank you. I think having a small stash of tools for our work days and things is really, we don't need a lot, but it would be nice to have a small inventory of loppers and different tools that we use, hand pruners, rakes, different things like that that we use for trails work. So thank you, Sati. So we're going to be working on developing this page and putting, different other things that would be useful. Like if we can, there's lots of trail maintenance resources or best practices, things like that could go here. One other thing that DCR touched on during last meeting, which I want to highlight and ask the committee's thoughts on, has to do with trails that are in watershed land. The training I went to this weekend was with Dick O'Brien, who has a long history in trails building. And one of the things he mentioned was trails that exist in watershed property are special and should be kept at they should be kept at a higher level of care because of their proximity to water that's used as either a backup or an active reservoir. That message, I think we need to lead with more often. And I think Southborough is really unique. Many of our trails that we oversee are along the waterway. That's why we can't have dogs. That's why we can't have bikes. People don't always think about it that way. I haven't really always thought about it that way, but I think we need to change and update our messaging to always, to kind of emphasize that, one, we have this really unique landscape in Southborough, but because of where we live and because of what the waterway serves, what the water serves for the community, we have to take a different approach to our trails. They're not like Hopkinton State Park trails. They can't be, right? Because they're next to the water, because we have certain rules and regs. And I think if we change the messaging to, you can't do this, to, did you know that we have these special trails and that they are special? And this is why they're special. And thank you for helping us keep them special, right? That it might help, just like with the dog waste, there's going to be some people that are always maybe agitated about that restriction, but the more we educate, it can be a little bit easier to understand if you have all the information. And I don't think we really talk about that enough on our website. So I'm going to reach out to DCR, who has lots of experience in sharing that message, and ask them for some of their resources, some of the way that they describe that, the trails that are in the watershed area, so that we can start aligning our message with theirs, and that we are doing our part as the Trails Committee in Southborough to share that message and get that out.
So how are you going to share this, on the website or through the signage? How are we going to?
I think all of the above, Sati. We can start with the website. We now have 4 kiosks, so we can put more information on the kiosks, and we can have it on our Facebook page. We can also send out a little message when maybe we have a fall update coming out, because we've had a lot of initiatives happen this summer. We want people to know what's going on. We could have a little, maybe not a press release, but a trails alert to the town to let everyone know, hey, these are the great new things that are happening, especially with the BCT connector. It is close to Stony Brook. It is going to be closer to the dam and the facility. We want to start making sure that people are respecting that if we're bringing people on the land. So I think we can think of other creative ways of doing that, but those are just some thoughts. Does anyone have anything else?
One thing, so website is okay, but how many people look at that? So that is one point. But having a signage right near the, it's hot spots, like one is there in, the Framingham Road, Route 30, that crossing.
Yes.
It's one of the filthiest portions of the trail,
Yep.
And that kind of thing, to reinforce this message that this is the trail, this is the drinking water, don't throw things, when you come for fishing or whatever you do.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and you're so right, because we've taken the approach. Remember, we talked about putting up signs saying, don't throw stuff away. I think informational, talking about, do you recognize that this is, the backup system, how lucky we are to have it.
Yes.
Exactly to Sati's point, especially where there's fishing and they're leaving all the garbage. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So we can work on that and see what comes up, but I think that would be really helpful to start doing. And I think it will be it's a good thing for people to just remember, because it struck me and it really resonated with me. I was like, yeah, we have a higher level of care for our trails because of the location. So I think that will be a good thing for others to understand as well. So speaking of the workshop, that was such a serendipitous opportunity. Last week, I was thinking about how we were going to organize ourselves to do the rest of the trail, and the Leominster Trail Stewards, I started following them after last fall when DCR hosted their conference. I attended a workshop, a trail reconstruction workshop. That was one of the 2 days before the conference they had offered, and Dick O'Brien was the one who ran that conference, that workshop as well. And I learned a lot during that. So I just on a whim reached out and asked them if they had an extra spot, could I join them? And I told them what we were doing, and they were happy to invite us, and then even had some last minute, dropouts. So that's where he had invited if we wanted to bring a friend. So that's how that invite came about. But yeah, it was a 2.5-hour workshop, really informative, just reminded me of some good tips and again, some tools that are really helpful just to have as trail maintainers. And it was their trail adoptee program. So they have a lot more property and trails to maintain. And the way they're working it, that we have a trail adoption program, but we're just asking our adopters to, hey, go out and take a look and let us know if you see some damage or fallen trees, and we'll take care of it. But they're actually asking their adopters to help maintain their trails with loppers and just basic tools. And they have a tool shed and they can check it out. We don't need that advanced because our stuff is pretty simple, but it was a really great opportunity to see how another organization handles that. So they have a nice manual of, how to do certain things. So it was good resource. We could link to some of their materials as well, because they're really quite organized and they have a really good system there. So it was very appreciative of the Leominster Trail Stewards for allowing me to join. So
Do you have any literature or anything that they might have supplied, or it is just
what was that?
whatever?
Do I have it?
Yeah, and during the workshop, did they supply any literature or anything?
I'm still not getting it. Did they provide any documentation?
Yeah, literature. Yes, anything.
Yes, they did. They definitely did. So I'll circulate that. It was in hard copy, so I don't have. Although they did share an electronic copy of the Trails Maintenance Workbook. So yeah, I'll share that with everybody. Thank you. The website. So we talked about the resource pages and the projects page. I will go there now. Can you still see this screen?
Yep.
So before our last meeting, I just updated our trail marker, just do our 2020 projects, basically the trail marker on off Parkerville. I did the Eagle Scout projects. Speaking of the Eagle Scout, I was thinking Eric was a rising senior. He's last year and he's graduating, and for the last kiosk that we have to install, he was going to install the molding and the polycarbonate, and I thought we were going to lose him for college this fall, but apparently he's a rising senior this year, so he'll be around, and he offered to do the installation still of that 4th kiosk, so that's great news. And I told him I would circle back once we get that in, but we put up his projects here. So what we don't have is the BCT connector, which we'll start advertising. I've been a little bit quiet about that because I want to make sure we're in line with MWA before we proceed, but we'll update that here as well and then make a little announcement. Question I have for the committee is, normally when you open up a trail, you have a little, celebration or a guided hike. And we did do a guided hike on this section last year. It was how did we frame it? It was a rough walk in the woods or whatever. But given COVID, how appropriate I talk. Given COVID, I'm leaning against doing anything this fall, and perhaps we focus on a spring opportunity. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Even though we're allowed to have small groups, I'm just not that comfortable creating a small group or an opportunity for others to get.
How about if we do kind of a combination where we put it up, we advertise that it's open, we remind people that they need to be in small groups and wear face covering, and then in the spring, make a big celebration.
That works. Great. Sati, does that work for you?
Yes, yeah, as long as, we observe the COVID, safety procedures.
Yeah.
We can do that, but yeah, celebration can be done.
Yeah, and
Next spring.
again, it's probably going to be a small group, not
Yep.
huge.
Yeah,
And maybe we could create a kind of a series, like where there's
Yeah.
us that's walking small groups. So there's an opportunity for a number of small groups to do the hike over a few weekends or a month or something, and we can. So the CPC application, our next item is I asked a member of the committee when the application was due. I believe it's probably going to be September 15th. I think we should put in our application. We should start filling out an application for that. And the scope would be the fencing. So we can't use it for trail maintenance, but we can use it for new trail stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking I'm going to put my ideas out there and you add on to it as you think we can, as you have thoughts on it. But we can do the fencing because DCR gave us permission to do fencing before the land is open. Although I'm a little reserved on whether we want to go forward with all the work before we have a public access plan in place, because that could mean we do all this work and we never get an access plan. I don't expect that to happen, but I would like a little more assurance that we're all moving in the right direction before we invest a lot of time and money into something that isn't going to come to fruition. So the idea would be to do the fencing. That's a big chunk. And to do what I'd like to do, we've talked a lot about this, but tying into the history, I want to make sure that whatever we're doing there includes historical markers and signage throughout the trail, like really make it about what the land was and share that story. But we could do it a little bit broader in that we could tie in, and I don't want to get too many objectives and lose the point, but the historical markers could also extend through the Bay Circuit Trail. And we could look at doing something downtown, right? So there's a lot of activity going downtown. And we're talking about, how do we connect everything, walkability, accessibility, that type of thing. How can we, just as Alex Flynn did with his Eagle Scout project, I was just there yesterday admiring that the signs that he had put up. How do we replicate that throughout town? Can the CPC application be focused on really bringing in some historical markers throughout town that could be in some sort of like it's going to be a sidewalk walk, but obviously from point A to point B, they can kind of walk here. We could have a little map that would have that listed out. So, but really highlighting some of the history. And I think that may be an attractive feature for the CPC application as we bring that in. We can work with the Historical Commission. Obviously, we're going to need to work with a lot of different town committees and commissions to get the information right. We don't have to do that ourselves. We can just leverage some of the relationships. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And then this would go, to town meeting if approved. Then it would go to town meeting next spring, barring any issues, and be voted on. So we could potentially, if it is supported, it may or may not be able to be used as matching funds for a DCR grant that we may or may not submit at the end of the year or beginning of next year, depending on whether there's an access plan. But this is a path forward. Instead of having one thing hold up the other thing, let's just try to move forward with this. And then if we get lucky and other things can can piggyback on it, that's great. Otherwise, we'll just move forward with something like this. So what do you think about that?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what that means is I have to get the application, we have to move fast because September 15th is, it's
That's
less
what-
than a month.
Yes.
So I will, so can the committee take a vote? Can someone make a motion that we move forward with the CPC application and that we try to put something together and review it by our next meeting, which will need to happen before the 15th. So,
I will make that motion.
okay,
I second that.
thank you. And let's do roll call to vote. Sati,
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Okay, and I also, Catherine McKee, agree. So great, thank you. And let's see what we can do. So I will be pulling stuff together and circulating it to the committee for feedback. Just when I do that, please only reply to me, and then we can discuss at our next meeting. So I think that's it. Any other business that I haven't mentioned that anyone has to bring forward? Okay, so we do want to schedule our next meeting for a time before the 15th. Okay, so the 15th is on a Tuesday and Labor Day is on the 7th. So maybe we should meet, can we meet the week of Labor Day? Like if we were to meet Wednesday, the 9th?
Ninth is fine.
Yeah, I am facilitating a program that morning, so I would only be available until 8 a.m.
Okay, would you, so would the evening work at all, or is that if we moved to nighttime?
Yep.
That would work?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe the 9th and would later time, like, so we would normally start around 6:30. Would a 7 o'clock be better for you, Isabel, given your program?
Oh, no, that doesn't matter. I'm finished by 4:30, so anytime that works for the rest of the committee is fine.
Great, so should we shoot for 6:30? Let me just
Betsy,
see.
what's works best for you?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's just do a quick look. What date was that I said?
You said, I'm sorry, were you going for Wednesday, the 9th?
Yeah, okay, so I'm looking on the Zoom list now. It looks like the 9th is supposed to be open for the town calendar, so that's good.
Okay.
So let's shoot for 9/9. I can't believe we're already in September.
Yeah.
Here we go. At 6:30. Okay, great. And I think anything else, that should be it. So I will reach out and coordinate some work plans. And if anyone is interested in going out at another time and you want me to show you, just meet you there and kind of figure things out. And then if I can't join you, that's fine. But just so that everyone's, just let me know what works for everybody. Thank you for your help. And I will, does someone want a motion to adjourn?
Certainly.
Isabel.
And then does someone want to,
I will
Second.
second it.
you will second it?
I
Okay,
will second it.
thank you.
Okay.
And let's do a roll call. Sati,
Yes.
okay, Isabel,
Yes.
and Catherine, yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. And thanks, Melissa.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Great
See you
day.
soon.